Hello, beautiful stars. Welcome to today's reading. All right, so in this reading, we're looking at, I usually like to do these once a month. We'll be looking at what's going on in the collective consciousness, primarily on this planet. And then we'll see if Spirit has any advice, any words for us. And I've already done the shuffling process and have laid out the cards. In the interest of time, I'm not including that on the video. If it is something you really enjoy and really like, please comment if you would like to see that process back. But I think going forward from this point, we will be leaving out that process out of the video just to save time. All right, so let's get straight into it with our oracles here. So we start with this one. Okay, so we have Shadow of Fire with inflammatory response. Okay, so a couple of things going on here. Yes, a lot of major shifts and changes going on with collective consciousness on this planet. And of course, that's going to be met with a lot of resistance. And this goes both ways. This is righteous anger and justified anger, and also anger from destructive forces that is giving resistance to the shift in the vibration. So what do I mean by righteous anger? Righteous anger is when you see something unjust, something's wrong, what's going on with our world right now, and you acknowledge like, hey, that is not beneficial, that is abuse, that is tyranny. So you activate the energy of anger and passion, which is the alternate energy side or of anger, and you use that justfully to either create change or shift the dynamic of what the situation is. Confirmation right there they're just giving me. It's a bit of a sting too, right? And it's also kind of like a wake-up call. So yeah, there's that dynamic going on with this card. Okay, next we have the Shadow of Dimensional Quandary Crossroads. Okay, so I see people in terms of collective consciousness looping back and forth, dealing with their shadow selves, trying to switch to the light, and then going back and forth. So things are being brought to the forefront. Perhaps that's why it's triggering this energy. It's like when we see things reflected in the external world and the global aspect, and there are aspects that we see in ourselves within that. That's why it's, in a way, it's positive, because it's coercing change, or it's allowing us to reflect and change. And at the same time, right, it forces us to look in the mirror of what we are and what we are capable of as human beings. And beings on this planet. We are capable of light and creation, and we are also capable of darkness and destruction. Okay, so let's look at the next card here. We have Dimensional Shadow with Perfect Circle. Okay, and I'm getting the perfect circle is yet to form. Because we are in this process of change, of shifting our energy, and transmuting our energy into better progress. And they don't want me to mince my words here. It is a very necessary process. They want me to be very precise and direct with this message. There's no beating around the bush for it. There's no skidding around the issues we have. We need to start looking at what is not working in our world, and to promote the changes for it, because otherwise we won't have much time left on this planet, both environmentally, but we are kind of at odds, is the word they're using, with ourselves. It's like we're constantly combating ourselves, but we're allowing we're allowing the shadow aspects to run amok, to be prevalent, to kind of run wild with abandon, letting tyranny, letting small groups that with very selfish agendas control the majority of the populace or the population or the masses. And they're telling me directly that we need to shift and transmute this energy for change, for the better, because time is imminent. And this reading, of course, is timeless, but who knows how much time we have left on the planet to shift and change. So it is imperative that we do change. And they're making that statement very boldly. All right, so let's look into our other oracles and see what we've got going on here. So let's start with this side here. So we have Ash. Okay. So a lot of double messages here coming through. So we have two messages here as well. We see a little flame, and we see the shape and all the ash around it, right? So one message is it starts with a little spark. Well, let's address the other message first, because it will lead us into the second message, or the other side of the message. So the first message, I'll call it, is a small group sees the potential, sees the opportunity, they seize it, and they use it for their own power, and they burn the rest of the world, using that power to control the rest of the world. And that's why we see the world in its metaphorically in ashes, and also perhaps literally in some circumstances and cases, with war, with famine, with tyranny and oppression. They're also pointing out to me that this is part of the human evolution, right? It's we see a lot of fire and anger here, and that energy, that dynamic. It was given to some circumstances, due to the course of the free will of the human species over millennia, to act as they do, because it allows the free-flowing organic shape of what humanity has become. It's one, we allow that free will, or they're allowing, the source is allowing that free will for us to see how we can change. And of course, there will be steps along the way, or events along the way, major global events, and part of human nature coming into that, with war and oppression and all that stuff, to kind of bring about change, to coerce change. But the thing is, we'll pause on that message there. The other message where we're seeing now is a small group or portion of people starting to awake, to rise up, to combat the oppression, to combat the abusive energy, the mistreatment of opportunities and energies that are available to us here on this planet. And that's what's going to ignite or spark the future change and revolution. But it is entirely up to our free will how we want to move forward with this. So that is the encouragement and the advice there. It's to look at our shadow aspects, to look at what's not working, and to see, because we have the free will, what world we want to live in, right? Do we want to live in this ash and tyranny, or do we want to live in a more prosperous environment? And they're also acknowledging it's not that easy, because the small group that started out way back in the past and throughout the millennia and to now that are in control, they have implemented a lot of I would say program structures that control the masses and the public. So we do know that it's not easy, but it starts individually. It's hard to believe that, like, oh, I'm just one person, what can I do, right? I'm just one ripple in the pond. But throughout history, if we look at individuals that have made a global impact just by their own conviction and by themselves, we can see that it is possible. So and this is to name things in certain ways too, right? This is both for the destructive aspect and the constructive aspect. So on the destructive aspect, there's one name we all know too well, and that's Hitler, right? It's a very destructive force that coerces change. On the constructive aspect, we see people like Gandhi, Albert Einstein. So yeah, throughout history, if you ever think that you're just one person that is infinitesimal in the grand scheme of things, be aware and look back in history that if those people, Hitler, Albert Einstein, and Gandhi, thought the same thing, then the world would not be as it is today. If Gandhi looked to the oppression that was going on, and he's all like, I'm just one person, I can't change this, and that would be the course of history, and that will shift a lot of things. So it is possible in our potential, but it's not saying you get out tomorrow and you try to change the world. You start internally and initially within your own, and then you change the dynamic of who you are, and then you evolve, and then you change the dynamic of those around you, your close connections, and then your community, and eventually it's on a global scale, right? That's how music artists work, right? They start with their own skill, their own song, their own, like, perhaps writing it, and then next thing you know, they become a sensational hit. And there are many artists that we know that have come to do that. So it is possible, but it starts with the self. All right, let's move to this card next. Okay. Ooh, just got shivers on this card. That's powerful energy. So we have the sun. Okay, so for some people, part of their destiny is to not only be in the spotlight, but to really capture the essence of spirit and bring it out to people. They're going to be major game players, major paradigm shift and game changers on this planet and in the collective consciousness. So they are rising, and oh my goodness, the synchronicities already. You see these two cards here. There's like, I don't know how many cards in this deck here, like 70 or something like that. I'm just making up a random number. But out of the 2 cards we pull, we see the symbolism again. We see a little small fire here, right? And then all the darkness and the ash around it. And then we see here the symbol of spirituality, the pyramid here, and focus, the power to so much bigger. And now the ash perhaps is so much in the background and little smaller and more minuscule in comparison to the fire that has been ignited in the world. And talk about ignition right now. A lot of fire going on. So absolutely crazy, amazing synchronicities here. This is what we're shifting towards. This is the encouragement to shift towards. In order to do that, we have to recognize both our dark selves and our light selves, and to transmute that energy. It depends on what world we want to choose. Spirit's not saying, like, go towards the light or go towards the dark. You have the free will what you want to do. But we can see that the world becomes more pleasant, easy to live in, and a lot more enjoyable when we choose positive aspects for ourselves. And when we go the other route, there's oppression and poverty. And if you want to live in that world, that's your choice. That's free will, right? So it's one or the other. It's not saying like you have to choose one or another or the other. It's just whatever you want to, what kind of world you want to live in is the kind of world that is encouraged for you to create by first influencing yourself, changing yourself, and then shifting those around you, and then on a collective consciousness level. I actually want to wait on these cards, so they're telling me to wait. So we're going to wait on... I initially was pulling just 1 card for here, but then it came out as 2. So let's look into our tarot next. Let's see what's going on. Okay, so we have the King of Swords. Okay, so it's like the cosmos is already preparing this. I see a medallion given to a certain number of people. There will be a number of game changers that we talked about that will be bestowed with this power because they carry the sovereignty. They have developed and evolved to a point where they are worthy of receiving the sword of truth and being passed on this knowledge and this power to lead the future generations. They're pointing out to me right now that there are, there's plenty of famous people in the world, right? And some, famous and also, well-known and notorious, or hold a lot of wealth and a lot of power, but it doesn't mean that they have the world's best interests in their heart. And the power and the medallion, the sword will be given, the wealth and the power will be given to those who are choosing to make a change and a shift and help all of humanity, all collective consciousness. Okay, and then we have the Four of Cups. Okay. We have some mystics coming through as well. So we have, interestingly, those who are more practical, I guess I would say, yes, in their knowledge of the world, in terms of how to convey themselves, to be a leader, a very firm, strong leader that will get people to, that will inspire people and get them to acknowledge the truth and to follow the beneficial routes and pathways. And then there will also be kind of like mystics and light workers, I guess you could say, or those also from the past is what I'm getting. A lot of lineage knowledge coming from lineages from past past populations, past generations, past cultures that are coming through to also guide us along the way. So it's a combination of working with these leader-like figures and then these mystic-like figures as well. It's a collaborative effort that will take to shift and change the collective consciousness into a new golden era, a new golden age, for the betterment of all beings. All right, and then we have the Nine of Swords. Okay, first thing I see is spider and the moth hair or the butterfly. It's trapped behind these swords here. Even this mouse is coming to help. So we see what's going on. Okay, what is in this regards to these swords, spirit? So we know it's a mental thing, and we know that we are so okay, entrapped in mental paradigms and ideas. That's why these leaders, mystics, are coming to help us out, or they're going to be arising to grow into their full form, to help those on this planet, because the masses or the populace or the population, they are so restricted, so constricted, and so tied to ideas that they abandon their spirituality or things of the natural world, the natural cycles, what they know intrinsically to be beneficial, to be useful, to be, they want to use the word right, to be what's correct, I guess, quote unquote. People are falling into their trappings of what they think they should follow, what they think they should praise, what they think that they should prioritize or give power to. It's a lot of mental process because it's a paradigm game, a power game that has been played. The word, the analogy of chess comes through. It's like the people have been subjected to mind control and mind games that have been so well installed in place that they become pawns to it. It's like, oh, if you want a successful life, you have to do this. You have to, work really hard in life you have to go through all this schooling. You have to, it's very restricted. And as we observe from people who are very successful in life as well, right? They've broken the mold. They going back to that Gandhi example, it's the power control system, colonization and power games saying like, oh, if you want to live a healthy life, this is the paradigm you're working in. We own you. So, if you want to live a happy, successful life, you do what we say and we won't, torture your family. Kind of like what's going on with the war in Ukraine right now, right? It's like a dictator in control of power saying like, oh, if you want a peaceful world, you have to give in to us. It's a paradigm control. that has been implemented. And over the course of history, time, and now, a lot of the population has been played into thinking that way. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, here in America, if I want a successful life with a house and boats and cars and stuff like that, I have to work really hard and have to make a lot of money, yeah, and support my family and so on and so forth. Nothing wrong with that. It's just the paradigm that people have bought into. And then the new world is emerging with a lot of ingenious leaders and new ideas. It's like, oh, if I want to be wealthy and successful in life, I don't have to do all that. I can seek out new ventures, either like in a new creation, a new project on YouTube, whatever, creating new things. And it's shattering that paradigm for something new. Perfect. All right, let's go to this side. So we have the Seven of Swords. Ooh, okay. They give me shivers on that one too. Spirits coming through, loud and clear. All eyes are watching on those who are ascending, because those who are ascending will break the mold and the paradigm here. And it's a call to connect with nature, we see the shadow self here, the past us, things that are hidden, that are unrecognized, that are perhaps haunting us from our past, old patterns that are difficult to release and let go. And as soon as we focus into our power, into our spirituality, which just means our connection to the universe, our environment, to put it on more simple and practical terms, as soon as you connect, the sooner you make the progress towards becoming those mystics, to becoming those leaders, to becoming those who hold the power shift to change the world for the better. And you are, once you tap into that spirituality, into that power, that innate power that's in yourself, in your core, your adversary will not be able to touch you. Because you are so in tune and attuned that you hold such strong power within yourself that you naturally shift those around you. Wonderful. So we have Three of Cups here. There's a call to unity, or should I say a call to join forces, to collaborate, to work together for the betterment of the planet and of our own health and well-being of our lives, right? I'm gonna leave it this way. It's recognizing the power within yourself and then combining that power to create something greater. It's like, let's say, for example, on a practical level, somebody realizes like, hey, I'm a great artist who can really depict, caricatures very well, caricatures, or however you say that, or depict nature very well. That's that person realizing their power, their talents, their gifts, their natural ability, and then they combine with somebody else like, oh hey, what if I collaborate with my friend who works really well with music, like my friend who creates very inspiring music, and how about we combine the two art forms together, and then we can help people in that sense. So something like akin to that is what we're talking about here. Okay, next we have the Knight of Wands. Yes, a lot of um, Leo energy coming through here. Sun, fire, passion, kind of like a revival. Like we see the phoenix here. It's like a revival of what was dead, quote unquote dead. When I say that, the feeling I'm getting is more apathy is what we're talking about. So perhaps being or people, and this speaks to all of us, right? At some point or another, we become disenchanted with the world we live in, and perhaps a bit downturned and depressed about it too. It's like, oh, there's so much negativity going on in the world. It's like it's hard to listen, it's hard to hear, it's hard to see. So we just kind of turn inward and become apathetic to it, because in a way that softens the blow of the nature of what it is that's going on in the world. We see, like child trafficking and things like that, and people being oppressed and killed and so on and so forth. It stings, right? It's that's part of human nature, the shadow aspects of human nature that needs to be acknowledged. And what we need to, how that encourages to arise, to evolve, is to take us out our apathy. Anytime a major event impacts or occurs in the world, it shakes us up, kind of like very tower energy in the tarot, right? It really sparks us, it really shakes us up, and then it coerces change, or it if anything, it inspires a lot of change. Okay, so let's look at our Lenormand next. And our Lenormand is in the shape of a tower. So it's similar to the structure of the Eiffel Tower, is what I'm getting. So it's those bars that are see-through, but it's not quite the Eiffel Tower, because at the top I was getting kind of something like a round figure, whereas the Eiffel Tower just goes, I think it's just kind of like straight up. But there's kind of like almost like a ring or a round structure around this tower. But anyways, let's look at our tower here. So we have the base of the tower, the next tier up, and then we have the top, and almost kind of like the point on top of the tower, that antenna looking thing that really projects out the tower. So what we have here is we have the dog. Okay, so I also get the house from this too, so let's see what that's about. I mean, I already have a feeling for this, but we'll look at our Lenormand connection to each other. And actually, before that, let me take out these cards here. There we go. Because that will be kind of our final pointer here. Okay, there we go. All right, so on this side, we have the rider. Curious to see what comes out after this. But we're moving and shifting away from something. So on this side, we have the fox. And the first immediate word that comes to me is cunning. I know how to make you think what I want you to think. Okay, interesting. Next we have the clouds. Okay, we see the light coming directly at us here. And then we have the stork. Okay, I do see a shift from this house to this house. And it's a very gentle feeling here. And then we have the fish. Very nice. Let's see here. Okay, good. We have a good energy from this fish. Never know what's going to come through. So it could be talking about shadow aspects or the light aspects of the card. But in this case, it's talking about the light aspect for the most part. All right, so let's talk about this tower here. So first, yes, this speaks to that apathy again. Just people remaining in their okay, they're using the word confinement, remaining in their home, right? But their home as almost like a form of confinement, and yes, the of what occurred within the past couple years with the situation that we have. It was in its own form confinement. But it also speaks to the nature of the complacency that people have in their own personal space, not just in their own physical home, but in their mental space. It's like, I'm comfortable here. Why do I need to break out the mold and think about things that are affecting things on a community scale or on a global scale? I have my group of friends. I have people that, I have my ways of thinking. Why do I need to diverge from that? Why do I need to think outside of that? And that's exactly what the power control has created so well. It's like, that's exactly what I want you to think. That's exactly where I want you to be. I want you, and when I say I here, we're talking about those in control, right? Those in power, those who have misused the resources and the power. They're saying, you're doing exactly what I want you to do. I'm giving you just enough morsels so you won't revolt. So I give you a comfortable enough life so you won't have to seek anything different. You won't ever challenge my power. You won't ever think outside the box. You can be happy little sheep, happy little lambs, and I will be the fox that's in control. That's the power dynamic we have going on here. And what needs to happen is we're moving away from that kind of nebulous thinking, that confinement kind of thinking. It's like it's time to shift away from that. And spirit's coming straight through the clouds here, right? It's like there's better things on the horizon. Yes, you may have it easy off for now, but what about the long term? And what about the long term for everybody? What about the long term for the planet? Will you be here on the planet? And you may say, well, I don't care. I'll be gone in like 50 years, 100 years, something like that. Well, then what about the generations after you? And the potential for growth in this collective consciousness we're talking about on this planet, and then on the cosmos scales. It is something to consider. And that's why spirit gives us free will to do what we want with it. But yes, the advice is to shift away from that kind of entrapment thinking, that confinement thinking, that keeps us complacent, that keeps us shrouded in confusion, that keeps us in shadow aspects that we keep on wallowing in. We keep on going back, because ultimately, no matter how you think it only affects you, down the line, yes, over time, when things shift on the collective consciousness and shift on a global scale, it will start to impact people on an individual level, right? And we've seen that already. It's like, well, there's a war going on across the world. I don't have to worry about it until it impacts the person who says that on an individual basis, and they're like, oh, wait a minute, the costs are going up for gasoline or for something, and they're like, I don't want to pay that. Well, that's the collective consciousness and global effect that we have going on here, because we don't live in a world that, or in a box or in a confinement where we are isolated from everything else. We are all connected, and therefore it is beneficial. If you want to live a healthy, prosperous life, then it is encouraged that all units in that world, that biome, that dome, that planet, that collective consciousness is healthy and thriving as well. And that's what we are moving towards. We are moving towards this confinement kind of space into a comfortable home and setting, right? It's an upgrade. It's a movement, a shift away from all that. Like I said here, I sense a lot of peace and comfort from this stork here, this stork card here, because that's the energy we're shifting into. We're moving away from that, and we're recognizing being manipulated, being confined to our thoughts. And as we shift from that, that's when we can really that ties in so well with what we just mentioned about the health and benefit of all beings, because I see here fish means abundance in Lenormand, and we see that wealth and abundance spread among everybody, or in terms of the collective consciousness. We see the whole quality of life being upgraded for everybody, because wealth is not a matter of quantity, it's a matter of distribution. It's not that there isn't enough wealth and riches and resources to go all around the world. It's the distribution thereof that limits people. And those who are in control and power, as we see already on a daily basis, somebody who has the wealth, or a few select number of people that control most of the power on the planet, the most wealth on the planet, and that the wealth that they can never ever spend in the entirety of their life, because they have amassed it so much, and they're holding on to it tightly and keeping it for themselves. And this wealth is meant to be shared, to be to be shared and perhaps distributed. There's ways of going about that, right? It's not saying like the hard work you've done is to be putting into a lottery system where it just gets distributed. No, it's not like that. It's more so we're talking about the greedy aspect. Yes, the nature of greed to consume more and more, like a cancer. Okay. Let's see, where do we want to go next? I think we finally can touch up upon these two cards here, and then we will go to our final inspirational messages and guidance from the Avalon magic and the Druid wisdom inspiration here. So let's see this card. Coagulation. Okay. Okay. It's just coagulation waiting to happen. It's I know it says coagulation, but I see more collaboration that's waiting to happen. Because right now there's a sense of the masses being coagulated, or being stuck in a certain set of thought, right? And so the collective consciousness is almost like it's coagulated. It's stuck, it's congealed, it's stuck in a certain way of thinking, a certain way, and then spirit's just waiting out here on the corner, waiting to infuse and clear up that coagulation and for things to flow better. Yeah, coagulation in terms of scientific and medical sense is, I mean, well, we know what a clot is, right? And we know what a coagulation is. And clots are often not, they form like a bolus of sort, congealed mass. And it can be very destructive. Clots can be good too when we are bleeding, right? But we're talking about blood that is smooth flowing in the body here, and clots can block that up. So yeah, we're talking it more the sense of allowing smooth flowing of things. There's benefit to a clot to kind of spend time with people that have the same way of thinking as you, so you can share and exchange ideas. But eventually that clot has to dissolve, so you share the ideas with your community and on a greater scale with the collective consciousness around you. Okay. And we have lead. Okay. Yes, and this is ruled by Saturn. Okay, so shifting that shadow and light aspect again. But lead can be quite heavy, so the process, the transformation itself, it's not easy. It might be a bit challenging to do, it takes effort, but Saturn is about we'll say your responsibility, your purpose, perhaps your dharma, that is a better word. Yeah, your purpose. So when we do the transformation, yeah, we will reap the benefits of it, and it will come out for the better. The result, the process itself may require a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication. It feels heavy and burdensome at times, and even strenuous. But the result that comes out thereof is exponentially, sort of using, greater and more satisfying than we perceive. Yeah. Wonderful. Okay, let's look into the inspiration cards here. Let's start with this side. So we have this image. Yes, a lot of tapping to that divine feminine or mystical energy we talked about earlier with the mystics here. Let's see what the message is. Let go of outcomes. You will be released from the burden you carry. Okay, that talks about, yeah, the stuckness here, the shadow things we are hanging onto. So yeah, quite appropriate for that. And for this side, we actually have two cards when we were drawing cards. So we have this image. Okay, it actually reminds me of a guiding figure. Someone very comforting, like Mother Mary or an angel, or yeah, whatever figure that you associate who has a comforting vibe to a world that is dark and gives solace to that darkness. So we have the Mother of Tears. This is the message. Sometimes the best of life opens only once we've let ourselves shed countless tears. So let go and breathe, slowly but surely. Black tourmaline will grant you protection and support. Carry one in secret and place one at your front door. Okay, yeah, so in times of heaviness, challenges, burdens, yeah, for some of you might benefit from carrying or using black tourmaline. It's a very protective stone. But shedding of the old, having reaching out for those who can give us comfort. These are the final messages right now. So yes, inspiration, advice, things that can be beneficial for us. And we have this image here. Okay, moving to greener and distant shores. Ritual of water. This is the message here. The Druids bless your aura with a protective ring, whispering prayers over water and holy springs. Let the waters cleanse your heart. Carry Lenormand crystal for happy confidence and clear communication. Yeah, so a lot of letting go messages here. So perhaps that is the heaviness energy on the collective right now. Releasing fire, releasing anger into healthy, justified anger, or transmuting that energy into something beneficial so we don't burn everything down to ashes. Take the period of grieving if you need, or rest or recuperation. So there's a lot of letting go here. And interestingly, when I release the shorts for this week, we have a lot of that energy coming through, with release, recuperation, death, transformation, that kind of energy. And also the King of Swords came through for that shorts too. So if you haven't seen the shorts, pop on over that short for this week. But I think that's the energy that's pervading through right now for the collective consciousness in this week. Wow, okay. Lovely, wonderful stars. Take that shift. Slowly but surely release what you need. Work on your shadow aspects for a healthy, better world, both for yourself and for everybody else. And I'm going to end the reading there. I think we're good on that note. So let's work and look to a brighter future and a better world together, as we work to transform and shift ourselves and our world around us. All right, lovely stars. If you found that message insightful or helpful or interesting, please consider liking and subscribing. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful, magical day. Take care, shine bright, and I will see you in the next reading. Bye, lovely stars.